The ability to adapt your communication style to the audience that you're speaking with, the people that you're speaking with, is an essential skill in today's multicultural work environment. And when I say multicultural, I'm not just talking about different nationalities, different ethnicities. I'm also talking about co-cultures, subcultures, and that could be based on age, the generation in which you come from, your gender, your interests, your role within the company, your field of interests, your psychology. All of these form essentially what amount to be co-cultures, subgroups, and each of them have their own unique communication style. And therefore becoming an effective communicator requires you to become an adaptive communicator who has the ability to essentially communicate with all these different cultures and co-cultures, subcultures, effectively. Now, through the course of my 15 years in the training and development industry and as a professional speaker, I've had to speak with audiences all over the world in 26 countries, 6 continents, from CEOs to high school students, from entrepreneurs in Africa to insurance professionals in Japan. And no matter where I find myself, I've had to adjust my communication style just a little bit so that I would better able to connect with those people. Because if I hadn't, well, my messages would have fallen on deaf ears. I would have been surrounded by just an incredible amount of miscommunication. And so therefore in this video, 5 strategies that will help you become a much more effective, adaptive communicator in any situation you find yourself in. The first strategy is to embrace the golden rule of communication, and that is to communicate with others in a manner that they would want to be communicated to themselves. In many respects, this is the opposite of the golden rule of life. Golden rule of life being to treat others in a manner that we would want to be treated ourselves. In communication, it's the opposite. And it's just simply to pay a little bit of attention, even ask questions, and find out, observe how other people prefer to be communicated to, whether it's the medium of communication, email, phone call, face-to-face, or perhaps whether it's direct or indirect in terms of the communication style that they prefer, and adjust your style accordingly. If you do so, you'll be in a much better position to resonate and connect and get your message through to that other individual. The second strategy is simply to get a better picture of how you yourself communicate. Now, each of us have a picture in our own minds of how we come across as communicators, as leaders, as professionals. But there are elements to how we come across that are invisible to us, but are visible to the people around us. And therefore, just simply getting some feedback in terms of how we come across from others, people that we trust, can actually increase our ability to better connect with others. There's a reality that can often occur, or it's not a necessary reality, a phenomenon that occurs where if we don't necessarily understand how somebody else communicates, we just simply mirror image our own communication style onto others. And so if we're a direct communicator, well, we assume the other person is going to be direct as well. But if that's not the case, we are inadvertently creating a disconnect with that individual, reducing the chances of effective communication. So get some feedback about how effective of a communicator you are from people that you trust. The third strategy is simply to tailor your vocabulary to the audience that you're speaking. In other words, if you are speaking to perhaps people who are very familiar with your topic, who are in the field, or perhaps who are leaders within your organization and who are familiar with what you're talking about, then you can speak the language, you can speak the jargon, you can use certain acronyms and words that really connect and would be perhaps privy to the people who are in your field, who have that background. But then if you're talking to audiences who do not come from your field, who are perhaps external to your field, external to your audience, perhaps have a different level of education, then if you use those same words, that same language, it's going to create a disconnect. You've probably been there where someone's given a presentation, given a talk, someone has been conducting a meeting, and it just seemed like they were speaking over your head because they were using terminology and words that may not necessarily connect with you. And therefore, it is a great habit to get into to select words that really resonate with your audience, that match their level of understanding, their experience, their education, and so on. The next strategy is simply to choose between big picture and directness. Some people just want you to get to the point right away, just give you the main point and give the data and the facts that support it. And then others want a big picture. They want a story. They want to find out how you came to the point. Right? Identify which style your audience has and then adjust your style accordingly. The last strategy is just simply to identify whether or not you need to be direct with your audience or perhaps build rapport with them first. Create some sort of connection. Maybe it's a little bit of banter, a little bit of just, hey, how are you doing? Just a little bit of small talk before you get to the point. Different audiences want different things. If you get a sense of who the audience is, adjust accordingly. And there you have it, 5 strategies that will help you become a much more effective, adaptive communicator. Remember the golden rule: communicate with others in a manner that they would want to be communicated to. Identify your communication style. Match your vocabulary to your audience. Decide whether or not you want to provide facts and data versus big picture. And then lastly, either be direct versus establishing rapport. If you're interested in honing your communication skills or those of your team, I'd love to help. Feel free to visit my website at www.johngodoy.com or email me directly at john@johngodoy.com, and let's set up a time to chat.